All righty. We are live. It is Friday, March 11th. And yeah, we are through another week. Can't believe it. It's already here. Friday, our Friday jam session. Feels like we were just doing last week's jam session. So today I am going to be talking about something that I think is probably something that gets asked quite often because we all want to be interested in what we're doing a lot of times. It also, I think, helps us to stay interested so we continue to take action. We continue to build out our niche property. And what I'm talking about is, and the question is can I build my niche property around my hobby? So that's the question. And I've got some thoughts here. And this whole thing came about because my wife and I were on our way to bring our daughter to beach volleyball practice, which is about an hour and 40 minutes one way. I know, crazy. And we have a lot of time to chit chat. And the conversation came up about this. And so we had a good discussion on it. And it made me realize that I probably should bring this up. We should probably discuss it because if we can get people excited about what they're building as well, it might actually help them continue, and it might make it a little bit easier for them. So that's why I wanted to do this little jam session here today. So my question for you is, before we get rocking and rolling here on our jam session, is: are you currently building a niche property in or around something you're interested in? Now, I don't necessarily think it has to be a hobby, although anytime that you're interested in something, you could classify it as somewhat of a hobby, right? Like you could say, well, is lawn care a hobby? It can be considered that to some people, but some people think hobby means, crafting or doing something for fun. It's kind of how I look at it. And so I feel like if you're in, because there's a lot of people, including myself, I like a nice lawn. So going out there and tinkering with your lawn, it's kind of a hobby for a lot of guys or girls. Gardening, same idea, right? It could be considered a hobby. So that's what we're going to talk about here today. And I would be interested, like I said, is this something that is your niche that you're in right now? If you are currently building a niche property, is it in a niche that you are considering a hobby, or is it something you're interested in? And the other thing is, and we'll dig into this, but the other thing is I don't necessarily think we have to build it in a hobby that we're interested in. We could also look at this as, do we just look at hobbies because we know that people are searching for information inside of these different hobby niches? So we can look at it that way too. All right, so we're going to get rocking and rolling here. Please let me know if you can hear and see me. I think I see a couple of comments coming through, so I'm going to make sure. It looks like we are live because I do see that we have some viewers, so that's good. And then, yeah, if you guys can drop that in the comments. And I know we have a little bit of a lag here, so yeah, let me know in the comments. The other thing I wanted to do is remind you, if you are not yet registered, if you're interested in joining me, we're going to be doing another web class, and that is going to be next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. That's March 16th. And we are going to be doing our live web class again, but I'm adding something to it that I've never shared before because of this conversation that I had with my wife, and this discussion that we're having here today is I wanted to show you a real live example of a niche property that is doing well. It's actually being sold, and it's generating over $2,500 per month. And it has been for over 2 years. And this is totally in a hobby niche. And I believe it started because the lady that's running it was interested in this, and it's just built over time. And there's a lot of cool things that she's doing with it, but I'm going to reveal that with you. The other thing that I think we're going to be doing inside of BCA is I'm going to be breaking down this even deeper within our niche properties insider. This is going to be our next upcoming one. So keep an eye out for that. But I am going to be revealing the niche inside of this web class for the first time because I think it's something good to look at. And I think for people that are wondering, can I do this in a hobby or around a hobby or even someone else's hobby? And the answer is, in most cases, yes. So if you're interested, go to brandcreators.com/workshop. Make sure that you register for that. I also am going to let you know right now that we are going to be offering our niche properties class, and we are going to be offering it at the the lowest price that it's going to be offered in the future. So we're like, this is the last time that we're going to run it for this special. The price is going to be increasing publicly, and anytime that we offer it as a special, it will never go lower than this. Actually, it's going to be higher than this. It'll be about $200 higher. So we're going to be raising the price across the board publicly. So right now it's $599 publicly. It'll be $799, but the web class, we're going to offer it one more time, the last time at this really reduced price. And then we're going to be raising it across the board. It's just, we've looked at the information and the course material and everything, and it's well worth $1,000. We're not going to charge that, but it's worth that. And there's a lot of great training in it. We're going to be actually doing some updates, and we have some resources that we're working on right now that we're going to be adding. So we're going to be building that out as well. So if you're interested in joining the Niche Properties class, then you're going to definitely want to show up to the workshop. All right. And that's going to be brandcreators.com/workshop, March 16th, next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. It will be live. Fingers crossed technology is with us, and you can ask any questions there as well. All right. So with that all being said, let's get a rocking and rolling, because this is a Friday jam session. All right. Yeah, it looks like we are good. Scooby Life says good. Karen, good morning, Scott. Snowy day today. Yes, I am building a business around my passion. Yes, you are. I know you are. And actually, you're going to help and impact a lot of people. So I love that. And Gio says, yes. Awesome. Cool. All right, guys. So let's get rocking and rolling. And I am going to change this over to my little Friday jams. Ask your question. And Maisie wants to say hi. All right, Maisie, we're going to get started here. All right, here we go. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Friday jam session. I am fired up because today we are going to be talking about something that I think a lot of people are interested in and would love to be able to build a business or a niche property around something they are interested in. And the question that we're going to be answering today, all right, we're going to be jamming on this question, is really, can I build my niche property around my hobby? Like, is that even possible? And so I'm going to share a couple of stories with you, because we have done this. I say we, myself and my wife have done this in around one of her hobbies in the very beginning. And then I've developed my own hobby and my own passion, and that's turned into several businesses, to be honest with you. But I'm going to give you some hobby ideas as well. All right. So we're going to go over some hobby ideas. And I just want to be clear here. So when we're talking about a hobby, it doesn't necessarily have to be like, people think of hobbies as, knitting or crafting, or woodworking, which, yeah, okay, that is a hobby. But let's maybe consider if someone's into maintaining their lawn, right? Like there's YouTube channels out there where they're striping your lawn channels, where people are buying these $2,000-$3,000 mowers where they do striping on their lawns to have them these different designs and things, like crazy. So that's a hobby, right? I also look at it as, okay, we can call it a hobby, but it's just something we're interested in. It's something that we want to learn more about, or something that we're just excited to learn about. And that could also be considered a hobby, right? So I'll give you some examples of some hobbies. I've got a bunch here, but I did want to just bring that up because some people look at hobbies as like, scissors and cutting paper, or knitting and gluing and things like that, right? That could be considered a hobby, but it doesn't necessarily mean that all your hobbies are like that. The other thing I want to say is, if you're thinking, well, okay, I don't want to build one in my hobby. Well, we could also look at this as like, what other hobbies are out there that other people are, obsessed about and that have a huge passion for, and there's a huge audience out there, and there's a lot of information that could be answered. Maybe I can tap into that, even though it might not be my hobby. So there's a few different things that we can look at here. And I'll explain why for me, it doesn't necessarily have to be my hobby in order for me to get excited about a niche. And we'll talk about that. So before I do jump in, I should remind you, depending on when you're listening to this, if you would like help going through this entire process, I do a free web class. All right. And I'm going to be doing these. I'm going to try to do them at least once a month. I'm going to try. But if you're interested in signing up for that, depending on when you're listening to this, there could be one coming up. Go on over to brandcreators.com/workshop. All right. Brandcreators.com/workshop. And if there's one coming up, you'll see a date in a way that you can register for that. And then from there, you can show up and we'll walk you through this entire process. I'll show examples of that. I'm actually going to be doing a hobby niche breakdown so I can show you what that looks like and how it's earning money and all of that. And you can see the niche itself. So I'll be sharing that with you and several other examples. And I'll be giving you the different aspects of this business model and what you need to do in order to make it work. All right. So if you're interested in that, head on over to brandcreators.com/workshop. All right. So let's get into it. Can I build my niche property around my hobby? So let me share a story with you. Some of you that have been in my, in my audience for a long time and been listening to the podcast for a long time, you know my story, right? If you've read the book, The Take Action Effect, I've shared it there. But if you have not, let me just give you the quick version of how my journey really started. And it really did come from a hobby or an interest of my wife's. So I was working construction, straight out of high school, didn't go to college. And that was my living, right? It wasn't a hobby of mine. I just earning money, right? I'm working, I'm creating, I'm learning a skill set. And, it was great. But got tired and burnt out from that. My wife had an interest. I wouldn't even say it was a hobby at that point, but it was an interest in photography. And we were getting pictures of our daughter done at the time, Alexis, who now is 27, or going to be 27. And so it was an interest of her of taking really nice pictures of children. And in our case, it was our child at the time, but then wanted to know, can I turn this into a business? Well, I'll fast forward you through the story. Well, we did that part-time, side hustling, if you will. I was working full-time still. She was at home. On the weekends, we would do these photography sessions, put a little ad in the Penny Saver at the time. And we got our first client. We did it really inexpensively. And then we just built up our clientele. Within 18 months, I left my job. We turned that into a full-time photography studio business, built a studio in my house, in my basement. And the rest is history. All right. So we ran that for over, I believe it was 8 or 9 years. But then that graduated me into taking that photography knowledge and the things that we were doing and took it into an online space. And we started teaching it there. But it started out as a hobby, right? A hobby or a passion or an interest. And what happened during that process is I discovered my passion, and that was marketing. It's kind of crazy, right? Like to think about it, like, well, Scott, is that really a hobby? It's fun to me. Like building things, I get things to work, marketing, like that is fun to me. I get excited about that. Like if you find yourself staying up late at night and you're like, okay, just 15 more minutes, and you look at the time on your computer and it's been a half hour and you're like, all right, just 15 more minutes, and you do 15 more minutes, that's something that you're interested in. It's something that you're driven to do because you enjoy it, right? So anytime that happens, it's a good thing. Now, for me, all right, I discovered that was my passion. So I found myself up late at night building my website or learning about, building an email list or doing a product launch or any of that stuff. I was up late at night, even though I knew I had to get up early and do, my studio at the time. I had to get up. We had clients and stuff, but I was staying up because I was excited about this marketing thing. So I got passionate about it. So right now, I'm passionate about building niche properties because it's digital real estate. I love real estate. I love digital real estate. Love everything about it. I love the mechanics of it. I love taking something from nothing and turning it into something. But that doesn't work for everyone. All right. So yesterday, we were on a long car ride taking my daughter to her beach volleyball practice, which, by the way, is an hour and 40 minutes away. I know, crazy. Never thought we would do it, but we are. So we have a lot of time to talk. And I was talking to her about messaging. I was talking to her about, like, I'm just curious, like, why some people don't get started in building a niche property. Like, why? What turns them off? And we started going through some of the things that we're putting out there, right? Like things like, see how this one website did $1,432 all with a side hustle or from a side hustle or whatever, like using the word side hustle. And she was like, that actually kind of turns me off. I don't like the word side hustle because to me, it feels like I'm going to have to do more work. It sounds like a lot of work. And I'm like, I didn't really think of it that way. I thought of like side hustle as kind of like something you're doing on the side, make some extra money. And to some people, it Doesn't mean that it's a lot of work. It just means like, okay, like I've got to do some extra work and I'm willing to do it. But for her, it was like that kind of turned her off. And then I started playing around with, I go, what about like using hobby, like in the messaging, like building something around a hobby or an interest of yours? And she was like, yeah, that would totally get me excited because now I'm excited about doing it because it's something that I would enjoy. Right. And so then that got me thinking, because I know a lot of people would love to build something that they're interested in. And again, this is going to be different for everyone. But if I was to tell you that you could build a niche property in a hobby of yours or of someone else's, all right? Because again, if you're like me and you're like, I just want to build one of these pieces of digital real estate and get some, rent coming in, then I'll just tap into a hobby that's doing really well, and I love the process and everything, so I'm cool. But if that's not you, and you're like, can I find a hobby of my own and turn that into, $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,000 a month doing something that I enjoy? So it's going to keep me motivated while I'm building this thing and having the potential to earn a good amount of money. And then being able to do that. Here's the key here, being able to do this maybe only 3 hours a week. Is that even possible? And the answer is yes, because I'm doing that right now. Like 3 hours a week is more than enough for me to build out these niche properties. Right. So when we started talking through it, she was like, that would get me excited. Like that I would be interested in. I would listen at that point. Right. So that's where I wanted to bring this up to you guys, because if you have been on the sidelines, you're just not fired up about it, maybe we need to shift it a little bit. Maybe we need to tweak what you're really trying to do. Right. Maybe what we need to do is focus on an area that does slightly interest you or really interests you, because that will keep you motivated. All right. And maybe that's the thing it's going to take you to keep going, right? Versus you just trying to find a niche that's a good niche that's going to, produce the right numbers. Now, you still have to run it through validation. You still need to make sure that the niche that you're going into has the potential. You don't want to guess, right? So we still got to run it through the validation process and all that stuff, but maybe we just hone in on something that you're interested in. Now, if you're the type that's like, Scott, I don't care about if I'm interested in it, I just want to see the potential and I want to be able to find a niche that's going to do well, then maybe what you do is only look at hobby niches, because we all know that those drive a good amount of traffic for the most part. So let me give you some hobby ideas, all right? Just so you can get an idea here, all right? And I wrote down a bunch here before I got on. So guitar, that is technically a hobby for a lot of people. Playing guitar, could be piano, it could be any instrument, could be a hobby. All right. So you would say, well, Scott, how do you turn that into a niche property? You answer questions about the guitar. You answer questions about guitar artists. Here's a great one. What if you if you had a guitar site and you were maybe explaining everything about guitar making or guitar construction or guitar tone or something like that. And then you started to maybe go into what amplifier or what tone did Eddie Van Halen use on the 1984 album? Like that's a question that you could go do the research and publish that, right? So just again, an idea. Now, would that be fun for someone that's into guitar playing? 100%. I'd be interested in that. I'd be totally interested in that. Right. So that's something that you could turn into something without even you teaching how to play guitar. Right. So that's just an example of one hobby. All right. Is kind of like instruments or playing or singing or any of that stuff. Okay. Let's say aquariums, right? Like having your own aquarium in your house. Like that's a big passion for a lot of people. They love to have fish. They love to have the aquariums. Some of them build them themselves. Some of them buy the ones that are already done. Some are small, some are big. There's a lot to them. There's chemistry. There's all of that stuff. Okay. Another one here, and I didn't even put this on my list, but I just thought about it because I said chemistry is like, making your own beer, making your own wine. It's a hobby for a lot of people. Making your own jerky, making your own whatever, right? That could be a hobby and you could tap into that. All right. Another one is obviously crafts, right? You can go 100 different directions in crafts. There's card making. Like I know my wife's cousin, big into card making at one point, and was buying all of these little embossing tools and cutters and all of these different things, thousands of dollars into that, but always looking either on YouTube or looking up a how-to article, or even just maybe looking at a machine that she was going to buy that was going to help. And then she was getting the information there. So all of that stuff, card making, that's just one example. Candle making, another one, all different types of candles, different, you go into like what type of wax, soy, this one, that one, like all of that stuff. Gardening, all different kinds of gardening, by the way. There could be, vertical gardening. There's gardening. There's another one there. It was kind of like window gardening, where you put it on your window and do things like that. Could be just gardening in general outside. It could be certain types of gardening. So that's another one. Woodworking, I already went through that. Wood chiseling is another one. Wood burning, painting. You can do watercoloring. You can do different types of painting, different styles of painting. You could do chalk painting, horseback riding. You could go tennis, sports, different sports as hobbies. Here's a great one: coding, like coding software, or gaming. That's another one, right? I didn't even put that one on my list, but that's another one that came to mind. Model trains, things like that, right? Legos, any of that stuff. That's hobby stuff, right? And there's usually going to be a large market for them. And if there's a large market that you can answer questions and maybe even do some how-tos, then the potential is there. All right. And I have one example that I'm going to be sharing on my my web class. So again, if you haven't signed up, if you haven't attended that, depending on when you're listening to this, I would definitely recommend you do, because I'll be sharing with you examples of niche properties, but I'll be sharing with you a hobby niche. Actually a couple, but there's one brand new one that I'm going to be sharing that it totally shows you what is possible. All right. And again, if you want to register for that, head on over to brandcreators.com/workshop and you can do that. All right. So here's what I would do if I was you, right? You probably already had some things going off in your head, right? You're like, oh, okay. Yeah, wow. Okay. Yeah. I've got a hobby. Like there might be a hobby I didn't even mention, right? And that's your hobby. Maybe you look into that hobby, or maybe you just sit down and write a list of all of your hobbies, all of your wife's hobbies, all of your kids' hobbies, all of their friends' hobbies, any hobbies that you're thinking that could be a potential, just write that down. All right. Because I will tell you this, people are generally passionate about their hobbies, right? And it's something that they do for enjoyment, usually. It's something that they get pleasure from. A lot of times they do it to escape, right? To be able to escape their job, right? So think about that. All right. And there is a ton of potential. There's a lot of these micro hobby niches too. So just have fun with it, right? This process is fun to me. Like I love digging in and finding where there has been success, right? And that's kind of your validation process, but it starts with coming up with these lists, right, of hobbies. I mean, there's another one, like I'm a Jeep owner. There's Jeep owners that's their hobby, right? Is customizing, going to meetups, going to different rides, meeting and doing a dirt ride, or doing not even a dirt ride. It could be just a location, all of those things. So could that be a hobby? Could be. So just keep an open mind to it, but think about that for a minute. And maybe take your existing, niche property, if you're building one, and see, does it fall in line with a hobby? And if it doesn't, is there a hobby that could be bolted on somewhere? That's another angle that we could do here. We could maybe bolt something onto that, right? Like maybe you've been building a product review site. Maybe you're listening to this and you're like, Scott, or maybe you're selling a product that is on Amazon, and it's a product that is let's just use some basic stuff here, like something that's like a chisel for woodworking. Well, you should be probably creating content around woodworking and chisels or chiseling and different designs and sculptures and this, that, and the other thing, right? We should probably be doing that, right? So think about what you're already doing, if you're already doing it, and see if there's a hobby that could be bolted on to it, or maybe multiple hobbies that could be bolted on. Because if you're into woodworking, you could add wood chiseling, wood burning, different wood things, right? You could even do the chainsaw sculpting, right? That's a whole nother one. It's another niche. So I wanted to do this because I know that a lot of people would love to do something that they actually enjoy. And when you're building a business and you're just building a business for just the reason of making money, it's slow to get there and you have to stay motivated. And if you're not getting the results up front, which publishing content takes time to get indexed, takes time, right? So it's a little bit of a waiting game. Well, if we're not interested and it's starting to become boring, guess what? We stop doing it because we're not interested. But if you're genuinely interested in this and you're enjoying it, then you'll do it anyway. And if you go at it with the mindset that I'm doing this, I'm putting something out there that will help people that are interested in this topic, in this niche, in this hobby, then it's going to help them. And it's fun for me to create it. Okay. Now, if you are listening to this and you're like, Scott, once again, I'm kind of like you. I just like building these things and I want to see this thing take off and turn into a piece of rental property. Then just maybe you're looking at these niches as opportunities for you to be able to tap into one of them and build something and build one of those niche properties or an additional one. Maybe you're on your second or third. Maybe you look into the hobby niches. All right. So guys, that is your Friday jam session. So hopefully this helped you. Hopefully this got you excited because there is a ton of opportunity out there. There's a ton. All right. And it can be fun to do this, right? In all ways, right? Like you're able to do something that you genuinely might enjoy or you're interested in, and you get to build something that you know over time is going to turn into something that could produce a consistent revenue stream for you and your family. So that's something that I would consider. Hopefully this got you excited. Hopefully you're ready to go. And maybe you're going to start creating that list. I would encourage you to do that, or think about your own existing one right now. How can you bolt on a hobby of some kind? All right. So guys, that's it. That's going to wrap it up. As always, take care, take action, have an awesome, amazing day, night, whatever time it is. And I'll see you right back here on the next episode. Now let's get them. Cut. All right. You guys got any quick questions for me? Let's see. Yeah, Derek says, whoa, daughter's now 27. She will be in July. Oh, Gio, thank you, man. Gio says, I encourage you to read Scott's book. If you can, get the audio book too. His energy narrating his book is just contagious. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And that was not an easy thing to do, by the way. That book, just to let you guys know, I was in a studio for 2.5 days for about 6 hours each day. And let me just tell you, not easy. Not an easy thing to do. You would think it is, but it's not. Yeah. And then to come back the second day and say, okay, where was my energy level that day? How do I come back in and bring that same energy? So I literally had to listen back to like maybe, I don't know, a page that I read so I can kind of get into the flow again. So anyway, just a little side note there. But Gio, thank you for that. And yes, the take action effect, still relevant today. And I don't think it'll ever go out of date because, yeah, it's something that I continue to do and use. And it is the things that we are doing today are going to prepare us and set us up for what's going to happen tomorrow and next year and the year after. So there is an effect that happens when you take action, but you do have to take action. That's why I wanted to do this episode today, is to get people that are on the sidelines, get into the game, man. The only way that you can get results is to get into the game. Let's get into the game. All right. Let's see. Oh, Gio also says, I have multiple hobbies that sometimes cross over with each other. This gives me a few choices for niches. How should I get started? Well, I would take one of them and I would run it through the niche validation process and see which one makes the most sense that you could, bolt it on with. So I would maybe take the list of that you have, let's say it's 3, and I would look at those 3. And if you're equally interested in all 3, then it comes down to numbers. Then it comes down to data. Let's look at the numbers. Let's see if we can find an angle to penetrate this market, and then start creating content and then bring people in that way. So yeah. Let's see. Gio says, but you sounded so into it. I was into it, but man, it was after that. I'll tell you what, at the end of that day, man, you just lay down and you're like, wow, that was a lot of work. But it was worth it. It's there forever. I bet it felt so rewarding getting through the recording session. It did. It felt amazing. Hey, Justin, what's up? Happy Friday to you too. Awesome. Glad you stopped by. All right, guys, that is going to wrap it up. One last reminder, if you guys are interested in joining me, it's going to be Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, March 16th, 9 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to be breaking down the entire process, what I've learned over the last 2.5 years of building a few different niche properties and what I'm continuing to do. And we're going to break that down. There's actually 3 parts that I'm going to be breaking down, and I'm going to be sharing examples. And there's going to be one brand new example that I've never shared before, which happens to be in a hobby niche. So if you're interested, make sure that you go and register for that. Head on over to brandcreators.com/workshop, and you can register there. And if you're watching this replay after March 16th, you can still go there. I'm not sure that the registration page will still be up, but you can go check. We should have a wait list there for the next one if this has passed. But if you are listening to this before March 16th, make sure that you go there and you get to hang out with us for an evening, and we'll deep dive into this whole niche properties thing, this whole digital real estate thing, which I'm pretty excited about. Still excited about it. That's my passion, I guess. That's my hobby. I love it. All right, guys, that's it. That's going to wrap it up. Have an awesome, amazing weekend. All right. And I will see you back here Monday for our Monday mindset. And we'll kick the week off right. And we'll get ready for Wednesday because it's going to be exciting. All right, guys, take care. Take action. Have an awesome day. Have an awesome weekend.